What's going on, Texas? Welcome to another episode of Texans Talking Football.
What's up, everybody?
As you guys know, I'm SAJ. I haven't changed in the last at least couple of minutes, anyways. And to this side over here is.
What's up? I'm BD. I'm coming at you from the Darkwing Duck Studios. Let's get dangerous.
There you go. And I myself am coming from the Lipton Brisk Iced Tea studios at home. It's brisk, baby. I'm just messing around, but I thought it was funny. But what's not funny is some of the amazing football that we had this weekend and some serious heartbreak. Not going to lie.
Yep.
So for anybody who's anybody that was watching some football this weekend, you got to see some pretty intense games. And the one thing I like about the way this week went down, even though we lost, right? Every game had some type of playoff implication, right? Seattle had to win to get in. St. Louis had to win and win big to suppress to suppress Seattle to get in. We had to win and Arlington had to lose out. All Arlington had to do apparently was just lose, right? And if they would have still gotten in, right? So there's a lot on the line this weekend, and unfortunately things didn't exactly go our way. But let's talk about that Orlando St. Louis game first, because that's kind of what started the weekend off. We can see that Orlando did not finish out well for the year at all. But they didn't just lay down and give up necessarily either, right? St. Louis, as we know, has a strong defense. And Brian, did you watch any of that game?
Watched a little bit of it. Watched a good chunk of the first half. Missed the second half of the game. We were tailgating.
Yep.
You just kind of popping in here and there. Man, that first half, Orlando, like you said, they weren't ready to give up. They were pulling out all the stops. I think it was we were going to the tailgate. We had it on when they had their 4th and 21, and I said to you, they'd be absolutely stupid to do a fake punt right here. And what do? They did a fake punt for a 84-yard touchdown.
Yep.
Just insane. And
yep.
they kept it close to St. Louis for the first half, and then I guess at halftime, Beck gave a good halftime speech, and St. Louis just came out swinging. So
they did. Although, like, if you look at the scores, yeah, granted, Orlando ran up early, right? But it was 6-3 at the end of the first quarter.
Yep.
And then we go into the second quarter. Orlando only scored 14 points. St. Louis came back and scored 22. So that put them in the lead. But it was that third quarter, rather, that where Orlando didn't score anything. They were suppressed completely by St. Louis's defense. And St. Louis still kept putting points on the board. So we go over to the box scores here. Dormady had himself a San Antonio day. He went 18-24, 188 yards. He did throw 2 touchdowns, though, but we pretty much blanked him when they played us, right? And then Francois went 10-17, 93 yards total, and then Mac Brown went 1-2, which was, of course, 84 yards, right?
So I guess they tried another fake punt later in the game that I must have missed, because he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So that means both of his passes were caught, just by different teams.
Yes, very true. Unfortunately, the other team catching doesn't count good for your stats. So, on the flip side of the coin, McCarron had himself a day. And I do believe that this is the highest recorded yardage by season for sure. He went 28-35, 420 yards, 6 touchdowns. That's insane. NFL quarterbacks don't even throw 6 touchdowns, and this dude did. So, again, remember, we were talking about that MVP race.
Yep.
This is proof positive that he needs to be in the discussion right here. Receivers, Francois, of course, 3 for 27. Jermaine Martin, I'm sorry, 3 of 6. Dormady, I'm sorry, this is rushing yardage, rather. Dormady had 3 for 5. And then Devin Darrington had 6 attempts, 0 yards. That shows you that St.
And a
Louis
long
is,
of 5.
yeah, that shows you that St. Louis's front line is not messing around, man. They were some strong opponents. We flip over to St. Louis's rushing side, and Durant had 8 for 36. Walker had 7 for 33. McCarron 3 for 9. Jennings 1 of 5. Receiving, of course, Jordan Thomas went off for Orlando, 4 for 109 yards. And I believe he was the recipient of that one. So that's 84 yards right in your pocket right there, right? So it's kind of easy to take the lead when, that's your biggest pass play of the game. And then, it kind of filters down from there. Rambo, I love that name. I didn't know they had a player named Rambo. That's really cool. Hey, yo, Adrian. No. Rambo went 5 for 57. Cannon 2 for 51. Jamil 5 for 47. Latimer 3 of 35. Williams 432. Darrington 3 of 29. So Orlando definitely was spreading the ball around a little bit. They just definitely did not get any like positive yardage really on the ground. I mean, 38 yards for the whole game. That's not that great.
No.
We flip over to St. Louis. Butler, of course, 9 for 164. Shepard 6 of 96. Mitchell 472. Jennings 5 of 42. Durant 3 of 41. Sutherland 1 of 5. And Adaman 0 for 0. I noticed there's a name missing there, isn't there? McCarron's favorite receiver. No. McCarron's favorite receiver is Shepard. He was in there. That's right. So missed that one.
You know who's not in there is Prohl.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
so
where's he been these last few weeks?
Well, Prohl played 2 weeks ago. He just didn't play this last week. I wonder if they were resting him, or if he was just out there and drawing coverage. Although they put Adaman in there, and so I don't know. We'd have to deep dive and see what happened to Prohl. But again, final score: Guardians 28, Battlehawks 53. I know we've got some friends in St. Louis that were absolutely miffed about them getting beaten in the playoffs, especially considering how high of a score they put up against Orlando. Yeah. And, there's a lot of people talking about how the XFL playoff system is and how it's kind of unfair that you've got a losing team going into the playoffs. But you know what? Like, this is what it's designed for. I understand the North is super, super strong. And, there's some North teams that had much better records, such as St. Louis at 7-3, that arguably should be or could have been in the playoffs. But that's not how the structure is. It's just kind of like, we can go back and we can argue about the whole catch, no catch thing again, which we're not going to do. But the point is, like, there's rules here. There's structures here for a reason. Okay.
And, it happens in every league. The NFL, you've got teams that are, losing records, division winners make the playoffs. NBA, for years and years and years, the last two teams of the Eastern Conference would have a losing record and they'd make it to the playoffs, while, almost 50-win teams in the West weren't making playoffs. It happens. If you're going to have separations, it's going to happen. So, you know what? Quit crying about it. And, I know we got a couple friends, of ours, kind of in the St. Louis group and stuff like that. I'm not talking about them, but St. Louis fans are some of the most insufferable fans in the XFL. Like, they're just, oh my gosh, will not stop complaining, will not stop crying, and it's really, really annoying.
You're definitely not wrong. I mean, that argument could be made about lots of sports fans kind of across the board.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that there's a playoff structure there for a reason, to give everybody the same opportunities to get into the playoffs, right?
It's not like they changed the tiebreakers like, the last game of the season. Everybody knew what they were getting into. Everybody knew like what the rules were to get in. Yeah, maybe the fourth, fifth, sixth tiebreakers, they wasn't anything that was really used because I think even ESPN was trying to figure it out, on the fly. But bottom line for St. Louis, if they really wanted to make the playoffs, they would have beat Seattle last week. So that's what it comes down
Exactly.
to. You know, they want to complain that they didn't make it, but Arlington did, or if we made it, a team with a winning record didn't get in. You want to get in the playoffs, you beat the teams that are in front of you. They didn't do that.
Yep. So, I was sharing our live stream to my Facebook feed, just so people know we're here.
Well, there you go.
But again, playoff structure is there for a reason. Didn't work out for St. Louis, guys. I'm sorry. It is what it is, right? Should have beaten Seattle earlier. Should have dominated your division. You would have gotten in. Okay. Speaking of dominating, we did not dominate like we thought we were going to. Okay. Let's talk about that DC Defenders and San Antonio Brahmas game.
Do we have to?
Unfortunately, we do.
All right.
We do. Because they're as painful as it is to talk about it, right? Because nobody wants to lose, especially when your playoff hopes and dreams are riding on one kick, right? But there's a lot of good information to come from this whole game, right?
We'll get into it, but dude, hats off to our guys, man. Just absolutely gave everything they had. Just typical San Antonio fashion. Did not go down without a fight. Stretched it to the last possible second, and I'm not gonna. Romo missed a kick, and dude's been automatic for us all year. He's been, at most times of the season, was our biggest and best offensive weapon.
Yep.
Certainly our most consistent offensive weapon. So you know what? You're gonna miss, and it sucks, and it hurts, and but it is what it is, and I'm not gonna dump on Romo for it.
Yep. And as much as it stings to say, icing the kicker, it's a real thing. There's a reason why people do it. And as much as it sucks us being the recipient of it, I fully support it. I mean, that's
hey,
your last ditch effort.
You got those timeouts. You got to use them because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, when they called the timeout, they went ahead, snapped it, he kicked it, went right down the center.
Yep.
You never know. You get bad snaps. You get a push from the defensive line. You never know what's going to happen. So, get as many chances as you can.
Yep. And I mean, considering how far it was what, a 54-yarder?
53-yarder.
53-yarder. Considering how far it was, and that's well within his range, but that's still, accuracy is a hard thing to do as a kicker, right?
That's not an easy kick. I mean, no. we see a lot more of those 50-yarders. Obviously the XFL, we've had them. NFL now, they're pushing 60-yarders.
Yep.
But 50 yards is a long kick. So
it is.
I would have liked for us to have ran the ball the previous play instead of taking a shot. Get a couple yards closer, but we didn't. So
sorry, I buffered on you a little bit there.
A little bit. That's all right.
Yeah. So, back to the kick. There's footage that was shown on Facebook, and granted, I mean, it's coming from the stands, but that kick literally came within 2 feet of catching that right upright.
Oh,
so that, all things considered, that's a 53-yarder. He was 2 feet wide on the right. That's still pretty damn impressive. So
it looked good from our seats. We were cheering, and then
100%.
We saw the refs waving it off. We're like, what?
Oh, we were ready to murder somebody.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, we watched it go through, but then they showed it on the big screen, and it was like, freaking kidding me. But again, there's still really good information to take from this game. One of which, our offensive line finally started doing their job, right?
Yep.
And we can validate that in Mr. Jack Cohn's stats. Jack went 34-48, 312, 0 touchdowns, but 0 interceptions this game. Okay. On the ground, Patrick, 16 carries, 41 yards. He got himself 2 touchdowns, and they were beautiful.
Oh, man.
Hilliman, 6 for 13, got himself a touchdown, right? It was absolutely insane. Akers had himself a pretty solid game, 8 receptions, 90 yards. TJ Vasher. Now, here's the funny thing, right? We've talked about this in being in game situations, watching it from the stands, or even watching it, being a player in the game. It looks completely different than what the tail of the tape says, right? One of the things we were noticing was that we thought Vasher dropped a lot. Vasher dropped 4 out of 9.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the greatest. He's a little over 50% though.
Well, I would say he might not have dropped. I know he dropped at least 2. I think there were a couple that, he was targeted, but it was, thrown out of reach, or he was the closest receiver. So obviously not all of those misses are on him.
No, but here's what the problem was. It was crucial times when he dropped them.
Absolutely.
You know? And again, please understand, we're not bashing the guy. We're not trying to dogpile on him or anything like that. He had a bit of a bad game, and it happens, right? He has been targeted a lot less than what we originally thought when we first found out about the rosters and everything. We thought for sure Vasher was going to be one of the key targets for whatever quarterback we were going to get.
Well, his 5 receptions, we might have to go back, but that might be his highest total for the year.
It is.
I think a lot of games, it's he only had 1 or 2. I have to go back and check those stats, but I want to say this is probably his highest reception game all season long.
It's his highest reception game and his highest yardage total game. Well, maybe not on that part, but definitely the highest receptions. He averages 2 to 3 receptions a game because he's a big, fast target, and he usually draws double coverage.
So he had, for the season, he had 16 receptions, and I lost it. 16 receptions for 173 yards was his season total.
And again, a lot of that, right?
But he's getting covered. I mean, he was our deepest threat. So he gets covered a lot. But he definitely had a few of those that got in his hand.
And then also the issue with actually, being able to have time for the quarterback to throw deep to him, right? Yeah. That's been a struggle this whole season. So I do love the fact that our newest addition, Mr. Nick Holly, you better put that Mr. on it, 4 receptions, 40 yards, right? Dude has gone off. The 2 weeks that he's been on the field with us, he has gone off. Okay. Patrick did pretty good also. 6 receptions, 37 yards. Mack had 3 for 29. Yelder had 3 for 25. Hilliman had 2 for 17. And then, there's a couple of other guys there. Fred Brown had 1 for 4 yards. This was a good game. Okay. We look on the other side. Tamu went 15 to 22, 271 yards. King, 3 of 4, 33 yards. And was booed voraciously by us every chance we got.
It feels like, looking at these stats, I thought King was in a lot more than just a few plays. I thought you would have asked me walking out, I would have said he played half the game.
Yeah. I mean, it did seem like that because a lot of the times when we were looking for Tamu, he was usually hidden somewhere. Turns out most of it, he was on the field. But we never really saw King either, right?
Yeah.
Normally they try and warm up like right in front of us and we heckle the hell out of them, but maybe they knew about us. Who knows? On rushing, they had 90 yards total on the ground, which is, a little bit more than what we normally give up on defense. But really, I think a lot of it was that first drive, right? They just came out and they punched us right in the mouth. We just weren't
Yep.
ready. And then, we fought back from there. So yeah, 90 yards on the ground. They had 304 in the air. And I mean, it was a fight, Lucky Jackson had 84 yards total on 3 receptions. Chris Blair had 1 for 70. Hammond had 4 for 59. But here's the interesting part. So DC came out, scored quick, right? Put us on our heels. We drove the ball down, couldn't get it into the end zone. So we settled for the 3. Okay, no big deal. Then they drove back down. We managed to keep them out of the end zone, but they kicked the field goal. And then we went into the second quarter. After the second quarter, then we started trading punches with them. We each scored touchdowns and 2-point conversions. Came back in the third, and it was much more our show, right? We held them to 3 points. We scored was that a touchdown and a field goal? Yeah. I think it was a touchdown and a field goal because we didn't get the 2-point conversion. And then the fourth quarter, they scored a touchdown, 1-point conversion. We scored a touchdown, 2-point conversion. We had the ball. We were driving towards the end zone. Came up short on that 53-yarder. And I mean, the rest is history. But did you notice anything different about the players' attitudes when they first started until towards the end of the game and then the very end of the game?
I don't know.
Well, I'm talking about DC's players.
Oh, DC players? Oh, yeah. First, especially, I forget which one he was.
Number 17, Mr.
Number
Personality.
17.
Yeah.
Who was telling us after that first drive that we were all going to start heading home in 20 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, after the about midway through the third quarter, he stopped coming over to our section. He avoided us completely. So
yep.
They definitely, we were giving them the business the entire time. And hey, you know what? They were giving it back. So it was some good banter back and forth. But yeah, after a little while, after the game started getting close, after we took a lead, they stopped coming to talk to us. They were avoiding us completely until the missed field goal, and then they wanted to start talking again.
Yep.
So,
and really, honestly, there was only 2 players that I can remember that came over and said anything, right?
Yeah.
And it definitely wasn't 17. Most of the other players were just thankful that the game was over and they got the win. What I figured was going to happen is exactly what happened, right? DC came into San Antonio figuring that this was going to be a cakewalk. They were going to run through us on a couple of touchdowns and then rest their starters and let their secondaries play. And they didn't get to do that.
Nope.
Right? Because starters in, and we kept fighting and kept fighting and kept fighting and just would not lay down. And so you could remember Frosted Tips, their defensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Old Greg Williams.
Yeah. He was getting absolutely furious with the defense because they just couldn't stop us, And for me, that's phenomenal. When you get a defensive coordinator that upset that he is literally yelling and throwing things and losing his composure, then your offense is doing well. And so going back to what I said earlier, those are the little things that we can take away from this, right? Yeah, granted, they're moral victories. They don't really count for a whole bunch, but they count for something, right? We had a good team. We had good chemistry. The problem was just finding it, getting it to work together, and being able to dominate and finish, just like Ward was saying,
I mean, obviously the problem all season, it started with the line. We've beat it to death, and last game of the season, we've got to mention it again. how many offensive linemen do we have go down all season long? You know, it's just we were just snake bit with it. And so
Mm-hmm.
uh finally these last few games, you know, there's been some consistency, actual, you know, guys staying healthy, not getting hurt, you know, actually being able to play with each other. And we've seen the protection get a lot better than what it was. And we saw these last 2 weeks with Cone what good protection, you know, kind of the production we get. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this game, he led us back into this game. You know,
Yep.
DC was up by what, like 14-3 or, you know, something like that. They were up quite a bit. And, you know, even the kind of people were groaning, you know, oh crap, you know, here we go again. It's going to be a blowout or whatever. Cone brought us back.
Mm-hmm.
Our rushing game didn't bring us back. We had timely rushes, but it was all Cone throwing the ball, and he was making good reads. You know, he was getting players open. You know, it was just the line was giving him time, and he was able to read everything and make good passes. So it's kind of what we've been saying all along. You give this man time, he's productive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cone's only real drawback in a quarterback or as a quarterback in a league like this is the fact that he's not a very mobile quarterback. He'll
Exactly.
move, right? Especially if if you can draw the coverage, the defensive backs deep, he'll move and he can get 6-8 yards easily.
Yeah.
But that's about all he's good for because he's not a very mobile quarterback, and that's fine. That's fine. But if you know you have a limited mobility quarterback, okay, and I know you and I were probably one of the only few throughout most of the season that were defending Cone because we knew what he was capable of, and he proved it these last two games that
Absolutely.
he is a very capable quarterback. We just got to find the right system for him. Okay. You put him in a team like, well, hell, DC or even St. Louis, he's going to go off because he's got a line, he's got protection, and he's going to be lighting people up deep. I mean, the guy is a very, very accurate quarterback.
Yeah.
And so it was just nice to see that he was able to showcase his talents these last 2 weeks. Now you just got to figure out how to run. So then he'll be fine. But so, yeah, that's the heartbreaker, right? Everything was riding on that last kick. We came up short, and you could hear the collective groan from San Antonio when the referees finally convinced us that it was, in fact, wide and the game was over. It was very depressing. But, hey, we live and we learn. What I'm hopeful for is that depending on how the NFL or the XFL offseason is and the preseason and allocating players and everything, I'm hopeful that we get most of our team back and just need to fill in a few key places, such as maybe running back. I definitely don't want to lose our new star wide receiver. I think him and Basher are going to be very dangerous together.
Absolutely. Imagine them together the whole season. Oh,
Yes. I definitely don't want to lose our running back. And we've got a couple of very key defensive players that I don't want to see leave either, like Barku,
oh.
stuff like that.
I think our defensive players are going to be the hardest ones to keep.
Yep.
I think quite a few of them are going to be getting some calls.
Yeah.
And I think Romo, he might be getting some as well.
Romo's definitely getting some.
He's proved that last kick aside, he's got a big leg. So
Mhm.
I mean, hey, you know what? That's what this league's about. It obviously, as a Brahms fan, I want to keep our best players, but they're not playing in this league to stay in San Antonio, no matter how awesome we are. They all want to make it to the NFL. So if they get that chance, hey, awesome for them, And it was great rooting for you while you were with us. So
100%. So, all right, let's switch gears and let's kick over to the Roughnecks Renegades game, which was impossible to watch because we knew there was nothing riding on it, but we had to watch it anyways.
yeah,
that absolutely turned out to be what I thought it was going to be. It was Houston just imposing their will all over for Arlington. And as Arlington did not lay down in that game. They just plain stunk it up,
Yep.
right? McDonald went 10 for 11, 120 yards through one pick. Ellaby went 4-7, 28 yards, no picks, no touchdowns. So they were 145 on the air. Their big day came from 31 rushes total for 196 yards. That's insane.
That was a big rushing game.
Yep. Jeremy Cox went off, 21 carries, 120 yards, one touchdown. McDonald himself had 8 carries for 66 yards and got himself a touchdown. And, the rest of it was just all legs and just dominating situations. We go over to the other side. Mr. Luis Perez, who was the newest addition to Arlington's squad, thinking that, he was going to be the answer to their woes. I mean, he had a decent game, 22-36, 205 yards, but no touchdowns, and he threw a pick. Arlington on the ground, 21 rushes, 55 yards. Obviously in the air, 22 pass plays, 205 yards. And Heron, 5 for 47. Canella, 3 for 41. Vaughn's 4 for 33, and then it kind of filters down from there.
Yeah, this game, it was just after our game, after our loss, this game meant nothing. And so neither team, like Silvers didn't play at all. It was McDonald playing the whole game. Yep. They pretty much ran it. It wasn't anything crazy. They weren't trying to show their hand, with any kind of new plays they were running, probably, any of the calls that they were doing. I do wonder, you kind of see some of the chatter on Facebook from, the groups and stuff like that. If we had won, do you think Houston would have let Arlington win just to keep us out? Because even the Houston fans were saying, I'd rather face Arlington than us because we were definitely the much tougher team.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, don't disagree with that. I think there's a chance that even had we had won, Houston would have just, thrown out their, what's that guy, Ellaby? Probably would have ran him out the whole game and let Arlington take it.
Potentially, but then again, this is Arlington we're talking about, right? And we're talking about big game Stoops.
I mean, Arlington might have found a way to lose it on their own, but,
Arlington did find a way to lose it on their own. They put 9 points on the board.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. Even with Perez's good stats, they still only put up 9 points. I mean, while I get what you're saying, I don't know, because I mean, again, it's all speculation, right? This is sport,
maybe just me trying to make myself feel better,
maybe, but ultimately, I do agree with you that San Antonio is the much tougher team. We've proven that time and time again. Every game that we've been in, except for one, has been a dogfight, and we've lost by a touchdown or less.
Yeah.
And so could Houston have done that? Very easily, right? Would they have, though, just for the sake of not having to play us, willing to risk a 6-4 record just to make sure they didn't play us at home? It's debatable. It could go either way. But it's definitely interesting chatter to spy in on and hear what the fans are talking about.
I will say Houston absolutely lucked out that we didn't win and
100%
didn't make it in, because had we there would have been quite a bunch of Brahmas fans making it up to Houston, and we probably would have taken over that stadium. I don't think Arlington's going to travel down to Houston like we would have traveled up. So
no, God no.
Had we been in, that probably would have sounded like a home game for us. But
funny that you mentioned that. So there's been chatter in some of the groups about XFL ticket reps reaching out to San Antonio fans and other fans kind of around in the area to let them know that, hey, tickets are still available for this game, for this playoff game. And it's that bad that they're having to reach out to people. because Houston fans aren't showing up to the game. Arlington fans definitely aren't showing up to the game.
Yeah.
And it almost makes me want to take a trip over there and just be loud the entire game just to show them what being a fan is all about, you know?
Just boo both teams.
Just boo them both.
Let's
Boo
do
them
it.
both the
Yeah.
whole entire time. And wear our Brahmas gear. 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, Houston walks away with the victory 25-9 in a very, very sloppy game. Now, let's go talk about the Vipers and Sea Dragons game and the Gooch and the game that he had. So, McClendon was in this game. You knew Vegas really was just kind of trotting somebody out there. They did not have a whole bunch of, fight in this game. They wound up losing 28-9. McClendon was 6 of 21, 221 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Lovett 7 of 30 in the air. I'm sorry, on the ground. McKenzie 6 of 11 on the ground. McClendon 4 of 9. Brian Burt had himself rush -4 yards. That's gotta hurt. Your one stat and it's a negative. Sexton had himself a pretty good receiving game, right? 2 for 119 yards.
One of them was that 84-yard bomb all the way down, which, I don't know if you watched this game or, that was the first instance of the fumble into the end zone.
Yes.
That, did not result in a touchback, which are the NFL rules. Vegas received the ball, so at the spot of the fumble. So, Sexton pulled himself a Leon Lett and got the ball knocked out right before he scored.
Because he was being a jackass.
Yep.
How do you personally feel as a football fan about that rule?
I'm torn. I don't hate the NFL rule. Maybe just because I'm so used to it, but I like it. I don't know how I would feel about the NFL implementing it. Because it is kind of they fumble it. If it goes out of bounds before the pylon, the offense holds the ball. If it goes out of bounds on the other side of the pylon, 6-inch difference. Now the defense gets the ball at the 20. So it does. I can see the point of it being kind of an unfair rule for the offense. I guess I'm indifferent about it just because I'm so used to it, but I kind of liked seeing it in the XFL. And even you hear the fans, obviously Seattle, an NFL team, NFL town, when they gave the ball back to Vegas, the fans were booing. They didn't know what was going on because they have been trained that fumble in the end zone is a touchback for the defense. So, even you could tell they didn't remember about the rule change.
Yep. So I'm a fan of this rule. I like it. Now, granted, it does reward, the offense for potential jackassery, like is the case here, and with Leon Lett, and several others. Again, it does kind of reward jackassery, but on the same token, like all you're doing is giving them an opportunity to do something that they pretty much already done anyways.
Yeah.
So especially in this case, the guy was essentially in the end zone and got the ball knocked out of his hands. If he would not have tucked it, or if he would have tucked it rather, he would have been in the end zone and it would have been a touchdown. So, You
can see the argument for both ways, So
yeah. So let's talk about the Gooch, Ben DiNucci.
Right there's going to be your XFL MVP. I'm calling it now.
Potentially. I just think that he surged after the second, right at about midway through the season up until now, whereas McCarron has been consistent all the way throughout. And I think more victories are because of McCarron's work than they are DiNucci. Okay. But
Yeah, but I think
we'll see.
McCarron also missed a game, so kind of if you're just looking at the stats, uh, it kind of hurts him. I mean,
It does. It does.
Danucci and McCarron are 1 and 2 in yards and stuff like that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
McCarron leads and it has more touchdowns. You know, better completion percentage. But
Yep.
I think the head to head game, 2 weeks ago, uh, McCarron just played such a bad game in the game that he needed the most. They needed to win the most. I think that's going to be the final differentiation between Danucci and McCarron for your MVP. I mean,
True.
the last 2 weeks, Danucci was lights out, and he did everything he needed to do to win the game for his team.
True. But, and like this game is a perfect example of the next point that I'm going to make, right? DiNucci kind of has an unfair advantage, right? DiNucci's got Gordon. Look at Gordon's stats this week. 9
Yeah,
receptions, 155, 115 yards. That's Josh Gordon. Arguably probably one of the best receivers in the XFL, and could arguably still be one of the best receivers in the NFL had he not been Josh Gordon, right? Um, so that kind of taints the argument, at least in my book, about how great Ben DiNucci is. Yeah, he could throw it down the field, but it's guys like
you know,
Gordon
but
and
Gordon's
that's
third
bringing
on
him
the
in.
team in receptions. Uh, and yards. He's not third in yards. I think he's like second on his team in yards,
He
but
is, he is, but
he's not even the top receiver for his team. And
no, but
McCarron, he's got Butler and Shepard, who those aren't bums.
and Cole,
Those are two damn good receivers on for their right too. So
yeah, but would you put him in the same category as Gordon?
Gordon's got the name, but has he really differentiated himself this year in the XFL? Not really. I mean,
No, no,
he's
but
had a couple big catches.
mhm,
Obviously the one the against Vegas, where he caught it and backpedaled, to win the game. So yeah, he's had a couple big moments, but he hasn't been the dominant NFL All Pro receiver that we knew 10 years ago.
true.
He's got the name, and so he does have some skill still there, obviously,
Mhm.
but he's not the Josh Gordon that he was 10 years ago. He's not running rampant all over the league, so I don't think it's fair to knock DiNucci for that. You know, like I say, he's a good receiver. He's not even the best receiver on his team, or the maybe not the best, but you know the the one with the the biggest stats.
Right, but it's also you got to keep this in mind. It's hard to get those big stats when you're drawing double coverage all the time,
This is true.
right? So either way, Gordon had himself a game. Uh, a lot of the other receivers, Jawan Green, 4 receptions, 88 yards. Blake Jackson had 5 for 44. Pearson, 3 for 42. VZ, 2 for 25. Right. There are a lot of people putting in work. And that, translates to your score of 28-9. Uh, Arguably, you know, a very one-sided battle there. Uh, just really a highlight reel for DiNucci, for Gordon, for Tamapio. I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's name, and I apologize for butchering that. Right, 4 carries, 44 yards. Um, Green, Jackson, Pearson, all those guys. This is just an opportunity for them to put up more highlight tape, right?
Yeah.
Just to get better looks. But ultimately, that's where things broke down. So that being the case, looking ahead, we've got in the semifinals. Let me click on it. We've got Arlington taking on Houston this next weekend on Saturday. Is it?
Yep. Yeah. Saturday.
Okay. And then you've got Seattle taking on DC at home on Sunday. That Houston Arlington game is just going to be pathetic. Okay. It's going to be Houston, and it's probably going to be Houston by a lot. If it's not a lot, it's going to be because Houston is going to use this as a bye week, and they're going to rest a lot of their key players. They maybe will play in the first quarter, get the lead early, and then just ride it out to the very end. Because
I can see that. I don't think Arlington. I mean, I know any given game, but I just don't see how Arlington's going to compete.
Yeah, not this game.
Not this game. You know what? But hey, we said the same thing about Orlando against DC. So you know what?
True.
You never know. Maybe.
True.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. The Seattle DC game, that one's going to be a good game. That one's going to be a dogfight of a game. I think that one's going to come down to the wire, or DC is just going to completely blow them out, which I just don't see happening.
I don't. You know what? I'm riding with Seattle for this game and probably even the championship game.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm picking Houston and Seattle for this week.
So here's an interesting phenomenon this weekend. This weekend was completely loaded with football. There were 4 XFL games on. There were 4 USFL games on. Where are we at? In the IFL, we had 5 IFL games this weekend. And we had in the NAL, let me get back to it real quick. Slow browser, I apologize. We had 1, 2, 3. No, we only had 2 games this weekend. So that's what? 5, 8, and 8. That's 16 football games.
I was told there would be no math tonight.
No, there is math. Did you catch any? And I know some of them were really hard to watch because they were happening during our games. But did you get a chance to watch any of the USFL games on Sunday?
I watched mostly highlights. Just kind of caught a few things here and there. Primarily Sunday, I was watching the XFL. So
yeah,
I didn't really catch too much of the USFL.
So I caught some of the New Jersey Generals in the Pittsburgh Maulers game. It started out extremely slow, and then Jersey just kicked it in gear and ran it up to 20. And I mean, it was a very, very one-sided game. And then the Panthers and Stars, watched a little bit of that one. That one seemed okay. But I didn't watch any of the other games. But
it looks like the only really competitive game was, Houston and New Orleans.
Yep. Which really surprises me, right? Because we saw it last week. And then for them to be in contention for this game against a 2-0 team, right? I mean, maybe there's something there. Looking at their stats, not play-by-play. Let's look at the Gamblers. Their quarterback Behar went 18 of 30, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 picks. So he wound up with a quarterback rating of 82.8. I will say USFL, I do like the fact that you break your player stats down like this and actually give quarterback ratings because people understand that.
Yeah.
And XFL, you could probably, talk to ESPN and have them do that one extra step. Give us a little bit more to talk about. A little shameless plug. Over on the Breakers side, Bethel Thompson went 23-34, 251 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He got himself a 108 quarterback rating. So New Orleans is a real deal. They've got some pretty solid stuff. They also have an incredible running back, Hills, apparently 18 attempts, 110 yards.
3 touchdowns.
That's pretty damn impressive.
That's a game right there.
Yep. Houston has a pretty solid running back also, 18 attempts, 94 yards, 1 touchdown. So there's some pretty decent competition here. The one thing I noticed though, and I don't know, I mean, let me know your thoughts on it, Brian, but the one thing I noticed about the game is that it's just different. And I don't know if it's because the fans aren't really there, and they've have some fans in the stands now. But something just feels different about that game.
I think I think you're kind of going on the right road there. It's just there's people there, but they're not. It's not a home game for anybody. It's just they're not passionate. You don't hear the cheers and the yells and the during the play or after the plays or while on defense. It's just got a weird feel. It's just people are like, let's just go to a game. I don't really care who's playing. I don't really have any kind of rooting interest in it. So I kind of agree with you. I kind of see where it just feels off. It's not. You listen to the XFL game, even the ones that don't have a whole lot of people in them. The 6 to 10,000 people, you still hear them cheering and yelling on defense and stuff like that. So it's a noticeable difference.
Yep. So yeah, Houston wound up losing that game 31-38. Stallions trounced all over the Memphis Showboats 42-2. New Jersey Generals won against the Maulers 20-3, and then the Panthers won against the Stars 24-10 in what is going to have to be kind of our fill-in, until the NFL actually starts or the XFL starts back up again. But just kind of average games. I mean, they're just not really that interesting.
No.
I shouldn't say they're not that interesting. It's not the same. It's kind of like our next series that we're going to talk about, which is indoor football, right? It's just a different game. So switching over to the IFL, and again, we're talking about the IFL because Frisco has a team. This week had some pretty interesting games. Sioux Falls beat Green Bay 55-47. Duke City lost rather to the Vegas Nighthawks 26-50. I just noticed they used Knight in their name. Nighthawks, their hockey team is the Golden Knights. Right? There's a lot of night action there. I wonder what's going on with that. Anyways, Frisco did beat Arizona, which we've talked about Arizona, right? And I'm assuming Arizona is not the Arizona that it used to be. But Frisco beat Arizona 52-42. The Tulsa Oilers beat the Iowa Barnstormers 54-48. That looks like that would have been a really good game. The Massachusetts Pirates lost to the Quad City Steamwheelers 44-49. San Diego Strike Force beat the Tucson Sugar Skulls 51-47. And then the Bay Area Panthers beat Northern Arizona Wranglers 47-13. 13. Let that sink in arena football. 13 points. Now I say that because the San Antonio Gunslingers have had games like that too, right? They struggled several times with
Couple, the last year, and I think the year before that. I mean, not this year. This year they're putting up some numbers.
Yeah, this year they're blowing it out both pant legs. But one thing I definitely did want to talk about is a couple of players from that Frisco Arizona game. TJ Edwards, 16-25, 192. I mean, that's okay for arena ball. But on Arizona's team, Jorge Reyna went 17-40, 250 yards. That's pretty good. 6 touchdowns. We've got the receivers, Fazion McClurg, 5 receptions, 88 yards. His counterpart, Isaiah Houston, 9 receptions, 136 yards. Those are pretty big numbers. And so I've got a feeling that depending on how the IFL, XFL, we definitely need to look into more and get some more information on. There are definitely some players to watch here because they could be making that next step. If they're young guys, 20, 21, 22, they may be making that next step into the XFL this next go round. As we pull players out and take them to the NFL, we got to get players from somewhere, and it's most likely going to be these cats.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so for the season, it looks like Frisco is what 6-0 now, and so that's pretty impressive stats, especially for an arena team. Now let's kick over to the San Antonio Gunslingers in the NAL. This week we only had two games: the Gunslingers at Albany Empire and the Sharks at the Fayetteville Mustangs. San Antonio won against Albany, but it was a close game. If you look at the stats, um, San Antonio 14 points in the first quarter, Albany had 20, right? So they took the lead and they were holding fairly well until that second quarter. San Antonio came back and scored 14 more points, and Albany only scored 7. Then we go into the third quarter. San Antonio only put up 7. Albany put up 12, right? So they were definitely, they took the lead again, and there was a lot of back and forth action. And it wasn't until that fourth quarter where Albany only scored 14, San Antonio scored 20, which was enough to put them 2 points ahead. And let me look at the game sheet and see if it says it.
Arvil Nelson, Gunslinger's quarterback, he had another damn good game. 6 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he had 9 touchdowns last week, another 8 this week. And he's just tearing it up. And Gunslingers are winning close games, man. That's 3 games they've had. They've won by a grand total of 4 points.
Yep. I don't know why I downloaded this game sheet. This thing is confusing and it's scary. That's not that bad, but it doesn't give us the play-by-play. I'd have to go to the play-by-play to get the information. But it does
I'm looking
definitely
at the box scores. Looks like Casanova for Albany. He had 6 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing. So, he had a pretty good game too. 226 yards. Nelson had 211 yards. This is kind of what you're wanting from arena football. That's kind of the sell of it. Those 13-point games, that doesn't really interest anybody. The whole appeal of arena is it's half the field and twice the scores.
Offense.
So
yeah, big scores, lots of offense. So for the season so far, San Antonio's sitting at 59% completion rate, 24.7 rushing yards per game, which is, that's pretty impressive, I guess.
It's arena. Nobody's running the ball,
Exactly. You're looking at 238.3 average yards per game, 601.3 yards offensive yards per game. So that's pretty insane. So San Antonio is definitely killing it in the NAL, and really they're kind of the team to watch here. So next week it looks like they're going to be taking on, if I can get back to it,
Fayetteville Mustangs.
Okay, they're taking on the Fayetteville Mustangs, who just lost to the Jacksonville Sharks, who San Antonio beat by 1 point. So speculation would be that they're going to take it to Fayetteville. Wait. No. San Antonio doesn't have a game next week.
Yeah, I'm sorry. May 7th is San Antonio's next game.
Yes. They'll be playing Fayetteville.
Yeah.
Next week, Fayetteville will be playing the West Texas Warbirds. And the West Texas Warbirds probably not going to put up too much of a challenge. I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But so far, they're 0-2 on the season. So, okay, that's about enough of that NAL stuff. I'm done talking about them. And I'm done talking about, all these summer football things to keep us, basically placated until the real stuff happens. Let's talk about the NFL.
So, yep, Jason, we've been talking about it for months. Probably 2 months now. It's been speculation, working out details. When's it going to happen? When's that domino going to fall? And we got the news yesterday that domino finally dropped. So,
yep.
The floor is yours, sir.
I won't take much of your time. I think the Packers did what they needed to do. I think they got a decent deal. I don't think they got a great deal. But the reason why I say that is because not so much the trade itself, but the fact that we're still stuck with a pretty hefty dead cap salary against the Packers for Aaron Rodgers that we just could not get rid of. They could have held on to him until after June 1st and tried to unload him, but I don't think they would have gotten nearly what they wanted for him at that point. I think his trade value would have gone down considerably and possibly would have been stuck with him for another year in which he would just be sitting on the bench protesting. I'm not paying the dude $47 million to sit on his hind and protest. So hasta la vista, gone. He is out. Here's what I'm speculating is going to happen. Because again, we did trade with the Jets for our first round picks. They took our number 17 pick. We took their number 15 pick.
Was it? I thought it was 12. I may be wrong.
If it was 12, it's 12 and 15. They really weren't that far apart.
Yeah, exactly. It was only a couple picks.
Yeah.
But,
the one thing I think that's going to help us out is the fact that we did pick up that additional second round pick, and we've got a conditional 2024 pick. If Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the games, that second round pick becomes a first round pick. So Aaron Rodgers,
which I mean, usually, I don't see him not. So,
right.
I mean, basically, y'all got
he dies.
Maybe. He is going to be in New York now, so who knows? But
as Dolph Lundgren says, if he dies, he dies. Plain and simple. I don't care.
I feel like y'all could have gotten more out of that deal. I get that you're kind of hamstrung if you've got a player that is absolutely unhappy, really wants to leave, and it basically says, "I only want to go to the Jets." Well, you kind of lose a lot of bargaining power at that table. So I wish for you guys y'all would have gotten more. I don't think y'all got screwed in the deal. Definitely. I mean, you get a second pick this year. You get probably a first round pick next year. And then, y'all gave up a fifth round pick this year or next year. I think next year y'all gave up a fifth round pick.
It was this year.
It was this year. Okay. Yeah. So, couple pick swaps. You're 2-3 picks higher in the first round this year. So you've got some picks. Y'all can make some moves and do some good stuff. But someone with the name Aaron Rodgers, I would have expected a bigger trade deal. But given the circumstances, y'all didn't make it out too terribly bad.
Right. Now, Coach isn't here to have this conversation with, so I'm going to let you in on a conversation that he and I had. See what your thoughts on this are. Coach thinks the Dallas Cowboys need a running back, and he wants the cat from Texas. Okay? All the projected drafts have that guy going much lower in the first round, potentially into the second round, where the Cowboys could easily grab him. But let's say the Cowboys want him that bad. Okay? There's also speculation that you guys are going to be getting Julio Jones.
Okay? See, I've seen that.
Let's say that happens. You as the Cowboys organization, would you be willing to trade places with the Green Bay Packers to take their spot, they take your spot, and you take that second round pick that we picked up from New York for Julio Jones? And here's the reason why I'm bringing it up. Everybody's speculating about how great Love is actually going to do. There's a lot of people talking about how hot he actually is. I don't know that I'm buying that. I've seen him in some preseason games. I've seen him in some regular season games. I don't know that I necessarily see that spark yet. However, as long as he can chuck the ball and he's got really good receivers to catch it, that is going to go, that's going to do a lot for him as a quarterback to get that confidence, to be able to get those extra skills needed to get to that higher elite level, right? Who better than Julio Jones to be able to snag those catches, bring them in, and mentor the younger guys that are going to be coming in? So it's definitely a win for Green Bay.
Absolutely. That's Julio Jones. He's that kind of player, that veteran player with you know all the skill, all the talent, but also all the knowledge that you want mentoring your younger receivers.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually one of the things that I think the Cowboys missed a lot last year was not having an old veteran receiver. I mean, we got T.Y. Hilton later in the year, but
Mm-hmm.
pretty much for most of the year we didn't have that guy,
Right.
and that it's so crucial to the development of your younger players to have that older veteran presence in the locker room. To just help him out, even if he's not going to be your big name starter, big name player. Just to be there to help the guys out. Explain routes to them, explain what you're looking at for defensive coverages, stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, I think Julio for you guys would be absolutely perfect for that.
Yep.
But you know what? He'd also be good with us for that too, because we still have those same younger receivers.
Yep.
Um,
So it's definitely a trade proposal that would take some time to think about. Again, obviously it would be great for Green Bay, but there's potential greatness there for the Cowboys as well if it were to work out.
yeah,
But that's also a whole lot of horse trading and a lot of moving pieces and a lot of craziness. But we've seen worse before, right? Just look at the oh, what the hell is his name from Seattle? Um, Russell Wilson. There you
oh
go.
yeah.
I had to think about it for a second. But the Russell Wilson trade, everything that Denver gave up to get Russell Wilson, and they gave up a lot. And how did that work out for him so far?
Last year
So,
not too good. And you know what?
right.
Maybe it was just an off year. I mean, Russell Wilson, he's still a damn good quarterback. So
Yep.
we'll uh, we'll see how this year goes for him.
Yep. So, that being said, the shoe is finally dropped, right? Uh, everything is now in play. People are going to be making a lot of moves, I feel. And we're going to see kind of where everything winds up. But I have a feeling that the like all the horse trading and everything is now going to start happening,
Oh
being
yeah,
that you know uh Rodgers is now officially a Jet, and he's moved on from Green Bay, moved on to different pastures, if you will. And then I've got a feeling that there's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing because now everybody in what is that, the AFC East, I think the Jets are in, um, East or North, one of the
yes.
two. But
East.
okay, now everybody in the AFC is going to have to compete with Aaron Rodgers. So there's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing done, and there's going to probably be some fire sales because teams know that what little advantage they had is gone, and so they'll just tank. They'll make it up on the next draft because Rodgers is only. I'm predicting he's only going to be in the league for probably 3 more seasons, maybe 4, and I'm sure he's only going to be just stopping off in New York for a visit. And right, phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 will be getting traded over to San Fran.
Still
So,
holding on to that, huh?
yep, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Just the way
Yep.
the way I saw Aaron Rodgers is me did. Okay. Favre wanted to go to the Vikings. We absolutely would not trade him, obviously. So we sent him over to the Jets, figuring that, they would keep him happy long enough for him to fade off into the distance, and we'd never have to see him again. And then he horse traded himself over to Minnesota and became a thorn in our side for 2 more seasons. So I'm
Yep.
pretty sure that Rogers is going to do the same thing, man. It's going to be another thorn in our side. Although Rogers in San Fran will be a thorn in all the NFL and the NFC. He'll be a thorn there.
Yeah.
So phase 1 is complete. We've beaten that horse to death. Let's recap the week. Okay. This week, XFL, Arlington at Houston. We've already picked Houston for the win. Seattle at DC. Who are you going with?
I'm going Seattle.
I'm going to root for the underdog. I'm going to go for Seattle also. I would really like to see Seattle take it, right? Just because I've got a bone to pick with DC. So we're going to take.
And you know what? I know everyone in St. Louis hates him, but you know what? I'm a big fan of DiNucci. I just, he talks crap and he can be kind of a douche sometimes, but I'm of the old adage, you know what? If you don't like it, stop him. So don't give him a chance to talk crap. And right now, nobody's stopping him from talking crap. So, I dig it. So
exactly. Okay, so let's switch gears over to the USFL. We've got New Orleans at Birmingham. We've got Memphis Showboats at Houston Gamblers on Saturday, Pittsburgh Maulers at the Stars on Sunday, and then the Generals and the Panthers on Sunday as well. Looking at the Houston game, Memphis is 0-2, Houston's 0-2. Somebody's got to win that game. Houston may actually ink out their first win this week. So
I could see that considering they were actually competitive last week. So yeah, I could see them winning that one.
Yes, sir. So kick over to IFL real quick, the Big Brother. This is going to be week 7, and we've got, where are our guys? It looks like our guys have a bye week, so they'll win that one. But there are some pretty good looking games, right? That Iowa Barnstormers, Massachusetts Pirates looks pretty. Also, Oilers looks pretty good also. So if you're so inclined to catch some arena football this weekend, because obviously the Gunslingers are not going to be playing either, might not be a bad idea to tune into some of these games and see if you can catch maybe some up and coming players. And then of course we go over to the National Arena League. You've got Fayetteville at West Texas Warbirds, and then you've got Albany Empire at the Carolina Cobras, and then the Predators at the Sharks, an old AFL matchup. I definitely am interested in catching that game, so I will probably tune that one in and just have it in the background, just because, again, it's old AFL teams, and the AFL was always so much fun to watch. Albany over Carolina, I'm picking, and then Fayetteville over West Texas, just because we've seen, West Texas has been somewhat competitive, but they have not gotten a win, and I just don't know that they got it in them. I don't know they got the juice. And then, of course, we have the XFL championship game coming up the week after. And there's also something special happening this weekend also, Brian.
What is it, Jason?
What is that? Oh, you want me to tell them? Okay.
Go ahead.
So for our 2.5 fans out there, Brian and I were actually invited to be part of the Fiesta Flambeau Parade to represent the Brahmas fan club.
That's right.
Which is a huge honor for us, especially considering the fact that, while we have been super fans and we have been absolutely crazy, you can still hear it in our voices that our voices are still broken from that Saturday game. We didn't really do much outside of, being absolute pains in the behind for every opponent that came into our house, right? We gave them the business from the time they took the field until the time they left the field.
Absolutely.
We stayed after the teams left to make sure that we taunted as much as we possibly could. And hell, we even did that in Arlington even.
Oh, right? Yeah.
When Brian and I left the game on Saturday, even though we had lost, we grabbed our Brahmas flag, spread it out as far as we could, and just walk down the concourse screaming, "Here we go, Brahmas, here we go." Right? Getting everybody riled up, getting everybody fired up, because there was absolutely nothing wrong with this team. Just a lot of things did not break our way, right? Not until towards the end of the season, after it just kind of was a little, too little too late, right?
Yeah, but you know what? It was a season to be proud of. So you know what? You and me, we're gonna support our team. And
Yep.
absolutely that's what that march through the concourse was. That was us supporting it, and you know what? Loved it that people were jumping in with us too.
Yep.
So
Yep. So it's a huge honor. Thank you, Fiesta Flam Parade, thinking about us and recognizing us and inviting us to be there. We'll be there, full Brahmas colors, supporting our team. Not only are we going to support our team at the Flambeau Parade, we're obviously going to continue to support our team through the podcast and through getting information to you guys, the fans, to make sure that you know about everything that's happening with the Brahmas so you can stay connected as well.
absolutely.
So we invite you all to come on down, check us out, watch us make fools of ourselves. It's going to be funny watching two old fat men, walk 3 miles and try and survive. But I think we can do it. I think
we can. It's not a fast walk, so we should be all right.
No. And thankfully there will be some stoppage along the way because, floats making corners. You can't really do that quick. So we'll have plenty of time. But it's going to be a great opportunity.
I'm going to take a hoverboard for it.
You should. You should. If it'll make it the 3 miles, go for it.
That's right. See my fat ass fall like 10 times on it.
That'll make it even more enjoyable for the
exactly.
fans. But so in the meantime, those are our predictions. This is our show. Guys, thank you all for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you. And tune in next week when it's going to be 2 clowns, maybe 3, talking about football. We'll catch you guys.
You guys have a good week. We'll see you later.
We'll catch you guys next week. Out.